Optimus Tom here for a little bit of a special version of In the Zone. I guess I'll still call it In the Zone. It's more like a, hey, they finally revealed what the hell the new items are going to do for Season 3, so we're going to talk about all this stuff so we can get some theory crafting done. Alright, so that's of course going to apply a little bit of what I do when I played Magic the Gathering, which was of course, whenever a new set for Magic the Gathering would come out, we would have a period of time before there's the pre-release, the release, but before the pre-release even, they would announce the set. They would say, okay, well, you're going to have X amount of, the set will come out like 3 months from now or whatever. And for those point in time, basically every single night at midnight, depending on where you were, like East Coast, West Coast, European time, Korean time, whatever time zone you're in, one or two major places in each of those time zones got a card that they could spoil from Wizards of the Coast, which is really cool. So what you were able to do was, as the set was coming out and mechanics are being revealed and cards are being spoiled and everything, you're like, all right, well, I know this is going to be reprinted, so I have these already. Now we know what this card does, so we can start playtesting. And what we do is you take any old Magic card. You could be like, oh, hey, look, I don't use 3 being Valiant. You just flip it over, write what the card was that was spoiled with all its little statistics and stuff, slap it in the rest of your deck, and you could sit there and play test with the actual card, so you'd be able to figure out how it interacts with the rest of the cards that are available in the format, and you'd be able to figure out basically what your deck is going to do and how to play against these cards and anything you needed to do before the card was actually, well, available for use, which is pretty cool. Shift forward now to Season 3 for League of Legends. Riot's been spoiling, items one by one for a little bit of time now. So basically, like the theory crafter and me, of course, we got excited about it first. They didn't release any statistics, though. They didn't release numbers. They didn't release percentages. They didn't release a lot of stuff. They're just like, well, it's kind of going to do something like Ionic Spark, but it's even better, guys, so stay tuned. And they didn't really give us anything feasible to. Well, Morello on the general discussion forum about 13 hours ago, according to this post now, has basically spilled the beans on a lot of the items coming out, at least a large enough chunk that we can figure out what they do, what their numbers are going to be like, as well as some of the mechanics and everything that Season 3 is going to be all about. So basically what I'm going to be doing this for is, for any of those theory crafters out there, much like myself when it came to Magic, now you're going to be able to, apply your theories to Season 3 with the items and everything in League of Legends, and you'll be able to have a grasp on what's going to happen before the season actually begins. That way, when you and your friends go out to play, you'll have a grasp on what the items are going to do, how the play styles will have changed, and basically you'll be able to transition a lot smoother between Season 2 and Season 3 than some of us did between Season 1 and Season 2. So I'm going to pull up the post and basically just give a rundown of absolutely everything. Speculate a little bit about what champions things could be good for, what mechanics are going to be beneficial from, as well as compare it to some of the other MOBAs in the genre, so you guys can get kind of an idea where to look at if you want to figure out what these items do, because a lot of these new mechanics haven't been implemented before in League of Legends, but are very prevalent in games like Heroes of New Earth and Dota 2. So without further ado, guys, clicking on over to the other screen here, we can see that right out of the get-go, Morello's letting us know that there are a lot of statistic changes. Basically, bang for your buck kind of changes here. Amount of statistics you get per point of gold has shifted. Attack damage is going to generally be cheaper across all items, whereas attack speed, armor, and magic resistance are going to be a lot more expensive across items. This, of course, means it's going to benefit more of an aggressive play style with the attack damage and everything. However, you'd be thinking like, whoa, hold on, Optimus Tom. Like, I heard like they're going to make the jungle harder and aggression was going to be really bad. Well, from the looks at it, what's going to happen is it's going to be more targeted aggression and smarter aggression. You have to be very careful about what you're going to be doing. If you have cheap attack damage items, but you don't have a lot of attack speed, then you're not going to be able to put out a lot of sustained damage. You could potentially just have a lot of burst in a fight, or potential trade opportunities, which is going to be awesome, because that's what we've seen a lot of the bottom lane and top lane dynamics kind of shift towards too, is characters will get into these trade environments, which is why Phage and Trinity Force became so popular on characters like Ezreal and Corki that could build it, because it offered so much more in the trade potential between two AD carries, as well as the fact of your choice of support characters was completely reflective around the fact of, well, okay, some of them offered more utility in team fights. However, in the early laning phases, they lost out on straight trades, especially to very aggressive support characters like Blitzcrank, Leona, Alistar, Anybody who's able to go in and initiate a fight against someone like a Lulu, for instance, who does have a lot of poke and prod, is like same thing with Sona. However, they don't have a lot of their own life, basically. Sona got nerfed to basically within 2 more effective HP than a melee minion, so she wasn't exactly in the safest spot for a little bit of time. But, you know, you could also get in there, be aggressive against her, and win out in trades just because you were able to get that early aggression before her poke became a little bit too unsustainable, and before you reached the team fight phase where she became super utility for the rest of her team. So now that attack damage is going to be a little bit more cheap, that means there's going to be a lot more trade potential, a lot more damage being thrown back and forth, which means you got to kind of think about what you're going to be going into lane with. Does this mean we're going to see a lot more sustainable supports and sustainable AD carries in the bottom lane? Well, I don't know about that. We've seen a shift in the metagame, actually, to go towards characters like Support Fiddlesticks and Support Zyra, who are extremely glass cannon, who are extremely, extremely weak. However, we've also seen this shift in some of the AD carries. The Korean metagame has popularized picking Varus. We see Aphromoo be able to bring Twitch into competitive games and still have a decent rate of success. AD carries have been able to get more aggressive. Ezreal's Arcane Shift, once thought of as a great tool for escaping, is also a great tool for engaging. Ashe has actually come back into the prevalence of the competitive scene just a teeny tiny little bit, but we're going to have to see. Does this mean that these squishy characters are going to be a more liability? Maybe. We'll have to actually figure that out, because sustainability, as we reach down further in Morello's little typing here, is going to be a lot less available at the early levels of the game as well, and it's going to be kind of replaced by defensive measures for their own support characters. So even though we're not going to have a lot of the statistics for attack speed, for armor, for magic resistance or anything, we are going to have better options for it. So buying items becomes a lot better. In games like Defense of the Ancients, this is a very, very huge point, because when you die in those games, you lose gold. And if you lose gold, you're not going to be able to buy items regardless. So the items are statistics differently because of that. You have early, mid-game, and late-game items, and you will sell those early-game items to get those late-game benefits because their items provide such a large spike in power. Butterfly is something that adds. In the game, there's a statistic for predominantly AD carries, or the equivalent of so, which is agility, which is your attack speed modifier, as well as for the carries, their damage modifier. So there's something that adds attack speed, agility, and evasion, which, of course, is basically like, you know, an Infinity Edge mixed with something that would have added dodge in the previous League of Legends, like a Sword of the Divine or something. I'm sorry, Sword of the Divine never added dodge. Sword of the Divine basically made it so you could hit people that were dodging. But if you're able to have something, you know, like that granted dodge on an item, you know, like the old Ninja Tabby, and then you put that on top of an Infinity Edge, it's basically the kind of item I'm talking about, because it gives you all the golden statistics you're looking for in one of those characters. Well, you're able to sell off, you know, like your Doran's items in the beginning of the game to go for that more powerful late game item as a basically a golden item spot, like Spark, because if you're able to kill your enemy before that happens, then they're going to lose gold and not going to be able to get the same benefits from the armor, the magic resistance, the damage, and everything that the items are going to be granting them in the later stages of the game, and you start to outclass them that way, just despite the fact that, you know, your skills and everything could be on the same level. You know, your kit packages could be a little bit different, more geared towards survivability, more not geared towards it. So the game is becoming a little more dynamic based on item choices, as opposed to just straight up, well, like, who can play who better, whose team composition can kind of work a little bit better, who can get ganks from the aggressive jungler first and stuff like that. So already right out of the get-go, by just talking about reducing prices for items, we already got all these speculations running through our head, like, oh, this is going to be so much better, it's going to be so more aggressive. Well, cool your jets, because it's not going to be a Zubu Blaze all up in here just yet. So going on a little bit further, we're going to see auras have taken a little bit of a change as well. Offensive aura items like Abyssal Scepter and Frozen Heart have had their ranges increased from 600, where they just recently got nerfed to a global of 700. So that means that they're all going to be relatively the same. Same thing for defensive auras. It's actually a cousin of the mammoth. It's a prehistoric animal, the Orask. You don't want to disturb it because it's going to trample all over you. But the range is now consistent 1,100. So Aegis of the Legion, Zeke's Herald, items such as this that have a defensive kind of statistic aura are going to be universally the same range. We all know that the penetration has changed. The values are calculated differently. Slowing effects now, there's a global slow particle. Slow effects on Phage and Trinity Force have reduced the effect when used on ranged characters. Slow duration on Phage, Trinity Force, Frozen Mallet have been reduced overall very slightly. So this is something, of course, that you once again see in games like Defense of the Ancients, where because you're going to be a ranged character, you're going to be out of the fight, you're going to have a lot of extra damage, you're going to be ranged far away, people are going to have to try to close a gap on you. Because of this, items that will proc slows or be able to proc certain like stun effects or such, like a Cranium Basher or Skull Basher in Defense of the Ancients, has a reduced effect for ranged characters because, well, it's a little bit nutty if you have the same kind of percentages on a character that has a way to or naturally stay away from enemies, as opposed to someone that has to be a melee character and get right in their face. So adjusting the values accordingly is just a way to balance the game just a little bit. It's kind of like beforehand where we had the Phage and the Trinity Force get nerfed overall. People are like, oh, Ezreal's not going to be effective anymore. Oh, no, my God. And then Double Lift just showed you that, Ezreal's still absolutely freaking broken. So they're just nerfing it a little bit more overall, and they're actually going to nerf it even more so for ranged characters. So is it going to be like all of a sudden, no, Trinity Force and Phage are not going to be really, really useful on AD carries. They're not going to be able to build this. We're not going to be able to trade as effectively, yada, yada, yada. Calm down. Phage effects are always going to be Phage effects, and it's always going to be good, especially if you're Cursed Cop. You always proc them when you need to, but it's not going to happen as frequently as a little bit more variance into the game. So regardless of the fact the items are still going to be plenty powerful, you're just going to have a little bit of the tweaks on their effects, as this coupled with the fact that attack speed items are going to be a little bit more costly, well, now you're going to have a little bit of a different dynamic. You're not going to be able to build like Trinity Force and then like a Phantom Dancer or something like that, and just get all those benefits of all this awesome extra attack speed and stuff, and get more procs because of it. So they balanced it out just a little bit. They might even, revert the fact that, okay, maybe attack speed costs a little bit too much, or maybe the percentages aren't even enough anymore because we don't have all this attack speed floating around anymore. Well, that's just something that Riot's going to have to learn in time with, slight little tweaks when Season 3 actually gets underway. Right now, you can only theory craft. Less attack speed, less percentage, less Phage procs, still worth it. You get a Phage proc though, and they're going to absolutely still be in the situation that they are in today's bottom lane. So you can see, actually, one of the cool things is changes the boots. Boots overall are going to give 25 less move speed, but every single champion has had their base move speed increased by 25. But this is actually going to provide a little bit more, because now you're not going to be moving as fast when you can upgrade to Tier 3 boots. What is this? Tier 2 boots can get enchanted? What is this, World of Warcraft? You go upgrade into Tier 3 boots. It's pretty cool. Home Guard, providing powerful regeneration movement speed at Fountain. Not quite Tranquil Boots. Führer increases movement speed in combat. Hi, Cumley. Thank you for messaging me. Captain increases movement speed of allies moving towards you. Distortion decreases cooldown of Ghost, Teleport, and Flash. This is actually a really, really cool mechanic. You probably see this used a lot on junglers, as well as maybe top laners, someone who needs to get into the fight and initiate. And then Alacrity grants a small additional base movement speed bonus. So this is pretty much going to be, well, Boots of Speed, Boots of Swiftness. You're going to have, this is cool, little utility boot. Captain's going to increase your move speed of allies moving towards you. This, once again, can be used for like a tanky DPS or somebody who needs to get in the front of the battle, lets everybody chase a little bit more effective. Increase move speed in combat, of course, once again, one of those tanky DPS kind of things. And then this could kind of be more of a support little thing. This, of course, could also be a support kind of thing, this distortion here. So it's going to be a little interesting mechanic to see how these boots are going to be, just going to be a little bit more effective on the metagame. I mean, little interesting little quirks and stuff. We don't have percentages or numbers for anything, so we can't really theory craft this all the way, but I think this one right here is going to see a lot of use, especially because of how useful Flash, Teleport, and Ghost have already been in the current metagame. We have some items that have been removed, so that means we're going to have these recipes being worked. Meki Pendant, Regrowth Pendant, two things used a lot for Chalice of Harmony and Philosopher's Stone, no longer existent. Force of Nature, a lot of people in A-Rank going to be upset. Ionic Spark, making me switch to Dota 2 because there's no longer a Lightning's item. Moonflare Spellblade, the most overpowered AP item in the game that no one used, unfortunately, is getting the axe. Cloak of Dagger, the item that no one knew existed, is going to get the boot. No one's going to miss it. Elixir of Agility is getting removed, and they said a little bit previously this is because they just don't want to make end-game AD carries that much more powerful by just having them spam potions all game. And Leviathan, the snowball item that stacked HP and gave you damage reduction, is no longer there. Also, following items are no longer available in Summoner's Rift, which means you could go Dominion, you could do Twisted Tree Line, you could still get your Heart of Gold and build it into things like Overlord's Mail, whatever the heck that thing is that adds a lot of extra, whatchamacallit. So, regardless of that, that's nothing really, really bad. Cool thing, rework Doran's items. They have slightly less statistics, but each has gained additional passive. Doran's blade no longer has lifesteal, but his passive is going to recover a small amount of life on hit. This is going to give you a lot more sustainability in lane. If you guys played Diablo 3 at all, you'll know how powerful life on hit is compared to basically a percentage of lifesteal. Instead of having, 60, 70 damage at level 1 and having 3% of that, so, having like not even 3 damage being leached back to you every single time you hit, now you're going to have a small amount of life on hit. Assuming the fact that it was 3% to begin with, you're probably going to have like 2 or 3 be the amount of life you're going to be getting back from this one on hit, but it's a static number, which means that, potentially this could be stacked with multiple Doran's items, which means you'd be able to get back, 2, 4, 6, whatever it is, life on hit, as opposed to having those Doran's items scale a little bit later in the game and be not nearly as effective, but still give you HP and other benefits. You kind of want to hang on to them to the last minute. This, of course, is going to add something a little bit better where it's like, okay, we'll talk about Vampiric Scepter a little bit later on and how you're going to be able to give access to this. Doran's Blade could be potentially one of those items, like I mentioned earlier in the Dota 2 metagame, where you buy it early on, you sell it later, and you're happy with that. Life on hit, like I said, more beneficial than percentage of damage, especially towards the early stages of the actual laning phase and during combat. Doran turn getting a similar treatment. You lose a little bit of regeneration. However, now you're just like swing. You gain a small amount of mana every single time you kill an enemy. So you're going to be, of course, more pressed for those last hits. You're in the mid lane regardless. You're going to have that Doran's ring. It's not really going to be any bit of a problem. It's actually a little bit more of a buff for you. Doran's shield, the coolest thing in the world. You lose a little bit of health regen and armor, but now you're like a stout shield. You have a percent, you actually have a chance, it's just a chance, not even a percent chance. You block a small amount of damage from champion basic attacks. This could be another dynamic being brought into the bottom lane. Could potentially bring back one of those kill lanes like the Jarvan Leona. Could have Pantheon on that bottom lane as well. We've seen Lee Sin and Jarvan being played in the bottom lane a little bit more recently. Giving you a way to stave off that early trade damage is going to be a lot more effective for people that want to build a little bit bruiser-eater. Could actually be used on those junglers like Dr. Mundo, like Lee Sin, who want to get in and get some early ganks going on, in addition to some of those trades happening as well. So we're going to have to see if it does, push towards a little bit more of a dynamic, or if it's still going to be one of the quote-unquote dead-end items of Doran's items. If it upgraded into something like Stout Shield, has a percent chance to block some damage from basic attacks, and then upgrades into an item that gives you all the benefits like HP and regeneration and a higher percent chance to block more damage, that would be really, really cool. But unfortunately, this is League of Legends, and the Doran's items really don't have any upgrade paths yet, and they're not going to have them anytime soon, I don't think. Like I said, I think they just kind of want to present an item that is really good in the beginning and laning stages of the game, but you're more tempted to sell later on to get one of these more higher tier items that they've now created for you, that we're going to not waste a lot more time and try to talk about as we go through this list. Giant's Belt, slightly cheaper, grants less health, means items, of course, going to be gaining less health, less armor, less magic resistance, more damage, kind of stave off a little bit of the farming phase of the lane and promote a little bit more aggression. Even into the later stage of the game, this makes it so you don't have that one champion that is just almost impossible to kill no matter what you do, so it's a little bit of a cool change. We've heard that they're making the jungle harder, they want to make ganks less aggressive, but they're making the lane actually a little bit more dangerous to be in, which I kind of like. Even the end stages of the game, it really punishes you for being caught out, especially on someone like an Olaf or a Shen that would want to build something like a Sunfire Cape. All of a sudden you have less armor, less magic resistance available to you, less health now from the items that you're going to be building, and it presents you into an interesting kind of situation. Rage Blade has been reworked to give powerful attack speed, spell vamp, and lifesteal boost when you're low on life, which I actually like a little bit, but it doesn't stack the same way the auto attacks did with the old Rage Blade. If it actually gave you stacking spell vamp and lifesteal with attack speed, that would be awesome, but now it's only something, it's going to give you ability power, give you attack damage, but when you are on a lower percentage of life, much like a Hex Drinker or Maw the Malmortius would activate, is what I'm assuming. Now you're going to have that kind of passive on a Rage Blade, where when you hit that point, all of a sudden its extra statistics kick in for a little while, and you'll be able to sustain yourself in fights a little bit more. It's actually going to be really, really cool for those top bruisers. We already saw at MLG Dallas, Mac Noon built a Nashor's Tooth on Jax. Hextech Gunblade, Rageblade used to be an older school build we did see on Jax's. This could potentially be something for Nidalee with her split pushing and giving her a little bit more trading opportunity in the later stages of the game. This could be a really, really cool item to play around with. Of course, unfortunately, it's not going to be as beneficial for something like the patented Optimus Tom Rageblade Twitch, which just bought it very, very ill, used the abuse of the ability power ratios and the attack speed you got by attacking and using these abilities to absolutely decimate your opponents in the bottom lane. And it was a little bit cheaper than a Bloodthirster, gave you a boost in statistics a lot quicker than the other enemy would be assuming you could. Buy it with one Doran's item and you'd be able to trade back and forth. But that was just a little bit of my own troll build, and why I'm a little disappointed that Rageblade doesn't have the stacking effect anymore. However, like I said, it's going to be a lot better item for bruisers to get, especially those that open up hybrid opportunities. So keep an eye out, Jax players, Nidalee players, anybody else is going to be benefiting from hybrid statistics. I think Rageblade is going to be something you might want to set your eyes on just a little bit when Season 3 starts up. Aegis of the Legion. Actually interesting here. It's kind of more like a headdress of rejuvenation now if you are a Dota fan. You lose the attack damage benefit, but you gain a health regeneration aura. And instead of this Ruby Crystal now, because you don't have a lot more extra health, you're building out of an Emblem of Valor, so you still get the armor and the magic resistance, but now you get health regeneration as opposed to attack damage. Kind of counterintuitive to the way they're reducing the cost of attack damage, so Aegis of the Legion going to be a lot more beneficial in team fights. Lichbane no longer grants magic resistance and now deals magic damage equal to a base damage plus percentage of your AP ratio. So this is a bit of a nerf if you look at it in the first light for Lichbane, because Lichbane used to be the same thing as Sheen and Trinity Force, but when it procced, you did your basic attack plus your ability power. Well, now it's going to deal magic damage as opposed to an auto attack damage, so that's pretty cool because it'll work off of magic resistance and magic penetration now as opposed to armor and armor penetration. Like, did I say armor penetration or armor first? Holy shit, sorry guys. But now it's going to work off your magic resistances, which means of course that they're not going to be as much in the beginning stages of the game unless you're playing against another AP champion. So this could be beneficial for Twisted Fate. This could be pretty good for Lichbane Lux if that's what you'd like to play. I think it's still a decent item to get on Orianna, but we'll have to see later on in the show. We'll actually talk about another item that I think might be good with auto attack Orianna. I have to credit my friend Kevin Tung with that one. Works for Team Liquid, actually their Dota 2 squad. So it's actually a pretty cool build. We'll talk about that when we get to the other item that goes into. But not the fact that, okay, you're dealing magic damage with it. That's pretty cool. But it's been nerfed so you don't deal as much because you're only dealing a percentage of your AP ratio. So it leads you to think that like you're going to get like an auto attack death cap where it's like 25% in your AP ratio or something, which means it's not going to be nearly as stellar as it used to be, which is why I'm saying it's a bit of a nerf. Even if you were to get like 50% in your AP ratio, it's still a nerf depending on the damage. But like now that's working off of magic resistance as opposed to armor, it'll still go with your auto attack, so it will actually apply the on-hit effect as well. It still could be beneficial, but like I said, considering the fact that it's still a little bit more of a later game item, now that you remove the magic resistance from it too, you know, if it costs less and you don't need to buy that null magic mantle and they didn't rework it to include that cost in the recipe cost, it might be a little bit more worthwhile because it could be more towards the mid-game item rather than going for something towards like the later stages or you split push with it. Gonna have to keep our eyes open for Lichbane again. Personally, I feel it's a bit of a nerf. However, certain characters may be benefiting from it more. And like I said, if you're playing on a Twisted Fate, this could be a little bit more of a mid-game item to get before your death cap, or at least set up to get, so you get death cap Lichbane and you're a little bit more powerful in team fights for a time being towards the earlier stages of the game, rather than just, you know, trying to get like a massive AP total and then try to one-shot towers with a blue card. So we'll have to see how it works out for you guys. Vampiric Scepter. This is the item I was talking about a little bit before, kind of pairing hand in hand with the Doran's items. Now builds out of a longsword and also grants attack damage. All items that built out of Vampiric Scepter now also grant attack damage. So not only are you getting sustainability from the lifesteal in Vampiric Scepter, now you have attack damage. So you could be getting those Doran's blades, then realizing like, crap, you know, I'm not really using this HP, and I could sell the Doran's blade, and I could get a Vampiric Scepter. That would be awesome. Now I have attack damage, I have more of that, I have more lifesteal, because now I'm doing a percentage of it, so the later stage of the game, excuse me, that's a lot more beneficial. So, okay, you know, like, maybe that's cool. Maybe that's what we want to do. So, you know, we're going to have to see if that works out, or if it's just going to, you know, make it a little bit more costly to buy things like a Bloodthirster and go into that. We could also think about now, like, okay, Well, what builds out of Vampiric Scepter? Well, we could have, like Bilge Water Cutlass, a Zeke's Herald. Oh my god, Zeke's Herald. Zeke's Herald's going to add attack damage now. That's going to be awesome. Talk about that next, because that's next on the list. Zeke's Herald's actually no longer going to grant attack speed or build out of a dagger. So it's a little bit of a bummer, but it could now have that attack aura that we lost from Aegis of the Legion. Doesn't really give us any information on that. That's just pure speculation. So we'll have to see if that actually works out the same way. If it did, that would be awesome. But if not, then, they could just be a complete flop. But now, saying Vampiric Scepter, everything that builds out of Vampiric Scepter grants attack damage. Zeke's Herald, attack damage aura. We need it somewhere because it needs to exist. Because otherwise, without the attack speed, Zeke's Herald is pretty much a item. So we're going to have to see if they actually do something with that. Avarice Blade gives less critical strike, but grants an additional 2 gold per kill. I'm assuming this is every kill, so now you have Twisted Fate's passive on a GP10 item. Gives no other benefits besides GP10 and the fact that you can get extra gold on it. So I'm going to have to see. Bank Plank builds will benefit greatly from this. So, that would be absolutely cool. But other than that, doesn't really offer anything else except for, okay, if it's going to be granting extra gold on kills, is that going to be something that the Ghostblade is going to have? And that would make Ghostblade a little bit more of a viable option. We'll have to see about that. Hextech Gunblade. Active now has its base damage reduced, but it has an AP ratio now. So those hybrid champions, once again, could be getting a little bit extra oomph and damage in there. It could be a potential pickup for AP champions that could be wanting to deal a little bit more hybrid damage. Twisted Fate could potentially be the recipient of a Hextech Gunblade. I don't think it's going to be the best thing in the world, but once again, I'm just spitballing ideas here. You never know what a pro is going to whip out in the middle of a tournament, and all of a sudden it's going to be the shit, and everybody's going to be like, well, that seems like a dumb idea. How come I didn't think of it before? Single target attacks and spells versus champions will also reduce the cooldown of the active by 3 seconds. Well, that's cool. So it's going to deal less damage, but it has an AP ratio, and when I cast spells and when I attack, it's going to reduce the cooldown by 3 seconds. Alright, what's this cooldown on this? Is it going to be like every single one of these I do, it reduces by 3 seconds? Because I can go through a rotation of spells with an auto attack, and all of a sudden it's down by 18 seconds. Or is it going to be like a Sheen, where this can only happen every like 2 or 3 seconds, and in which case you have to stagger your spells, but then, within 18 seconds, you reduce your own cooldown by 18 seconds on the Gunblade, and this could potentially go off twice in the middle of a team fight. We'll have to see. We're going to have to see also if they change the cooldown on it. It says nothing about the cooldown being changed. I believe it's 60 seconds right now. I don't know. I'm really bad at this. I really should know these things. But, if you're actually going to be reducing that by about a quarter, that could be an initiation. And if the fight lasts, if you're chasing someone down 45 seconds later, you could also get the Gunblade attack down one more time. And then, of course, you'll be able to get the extra slow. And it could be a bit better for chases. You're also going to be getting more rotation of spells. So it's probably going to be more within like the 35 to 40 second mark instead. So we'll have to see if that's actually what they do with Hextech Gunblade. We could potentially, like I said, see that on champions more like Jax, which could benefit a lot more for him if he's going to be able to spam that out with his abilities a bit more, especially because Jax is going to be increasing his attack speed as well. Ooh, that could be very, very deadly. Regardless of the fact, Phantom Dancer, the item that's getting changed, everyone wants to know about it. Grants less move speed and less attack speed, but you ignore unit collision passively. So those AD carries no longer going to be stuck in the back between minions in the middle of fights, not going to be stuck between minions in the middle of lanes. Also, now that if you get a Phantom Dancer, you could run away through minions, whereas your enemies can't anymore. So it could be pretty cool. The cost actually hasn't been nerfed or anything, as it says on here. So Phantom Dancer is still going to be equally as costly. It's going to give you less statistics, but it'll give you this cool little passive. We're going to have to see if it's worth it or if Phantom Dancer actually falls off a little bit. Now, Zeal does not seem to be changed whatsoever, so Zeal is going to be giving you the same attack speed and movement speed bonuses, so it could be a little bit more beneficial to pick up that Zeal and then complete an item as someone like an AD carry, rather than going for the Phantom Dancer outright after, say, getting a Bloodthirster or getting, like a BF Sword, Zeal, Phantom Dancer, something like that. It could also mean I'm going to have a little bit less love for Kog'Maw builds. Could also mean, though, that Kog'Maw could go Zeal first, then build damage. He has a Nunu on his team already. He's going to be able to make up for that extra attack speed and movement speed loss, and then go for the Phantom Dancer. Same thing with Vayne builds. We're going to have to see. Nunu could be a lot more viable because of this, or the Phantom Dancer nerf, quote-unquote, could just be a whole lot of hubbub. We'll have to see. Australia's Reverie getting a little bit less regeneration statistics. Mana regeneration, health regeneration nerfed a little bit, probably due to the fact that, well, the sustainability is going to be put down a little bit, as well as the fact that the regrowth pendant is now completely gone. So they're also going to be buffing the Fairy Chime, I believe, in order to make up for the fact that Meki Pendant is gone. If not, then you're going to have to get 2 Fairy Chimes and maybe make something out of a Mana Manipulator, which could be really cool to see because no one really gets that unless you're running a Poke composition and you're going to be using a Soul Shroud. Elise's Miracle. This is a really cool change to the item. No longer grants tenacity. It lowered the heal down. Lowers the cooldown of Heal, Clairvoyance, and Revive by 20%. So it's an item that support's going to be looking to take. We'll talk about the changes to Heal and Clairvoyance in just a little bit. If you use it, I don't remember how the levels go, but if you use it effectively and you gain levels for it, I believe it's on kills and assists or something like that, you'll get the statistics passive permanently, and the item disappears from your inventory. So you basically get, the benefit of your summoner spells being on cooldown, which is something like a Mastery has only been able to do until now, as well as the fact you still get the mana and health regeneration, and that has actually not been nerfed whatsoever. So that's a very effective item to pick up on supports. It's also a bit of a differential between the Philosopher's Stone, and if you're going to be one of these champions, of course, now Heart of Gold is no longer available on Summoner's Rift. So if you're going to be one of these champions like a Soraka or a Sona that used to go Philosopher's Stone, Heart of Gold for survivability, you now go Philosopher's Stone, Elise's Miracle, get the benefits from those statistics, and then transition into something else for your build, because you're, of course, going to have, potentially want to run a heal now instead of Exhaust or instead of Flash. We'll have to see about that in a little bit. But, you have these bonus defensive statistics that you could be taking, and it could work out a lot more beneficially for you if you're, say, going to be able to heal your ally in lane and then get into a team fight and use the heal again for your team, or, as opposed to someone else that's not going to be able to. Plus, you're going to be able to sit there on a pokey champion like Support Sona, sit back, poke better, have more sustainability, not need to stop and get that Chalice of Harmony. Kind of the dead end item is not going to help you out as a support character. It's more for your own sustainability with your mana pool. Now you're going to have something that can still help you out as a support character by giving you those summoner spell cooldowns, in addition to the fact you have your own mana and health regeneration to sit back in lane, heal up after a little bit of a costly trade, and stay in lane with your AD carry rather than have to go back and leave them susceptible to jungle ganks. It's a pretty cool item to be completely honest, and I'm kind of looking forward to using it on supports. Black Cleaver have been completely remade. We know about all this. Builds out a Brutalizer and some other items now. Deals physical damage. Reduces a percentage of their target's armor. We talked about that a little bit earlier, I believe, during Trinity Force podcast, and how now it's going to be stacking differently with the armor penetration, and how you're going to be removing a chunk percentage of their armor rather than a flat armor. So it's going to be a lot more useful towards the later stages of the game for shredding down tanks. So now the AD carry is like, why are you focusing the tank? Blah, blah. It's because I have a Black Cleaver. Deal with it. Let's see here. What I get lost. Youmuu's Ghostblade. Active has been simplified. 6 seconds for melee, 4 for range. Active cooldown has been reduced from 45 seconds to 60. No talk about if you have the new Avarice Blade passive or not. I can only assume you're going to be carrying that over from the item, which means that Youmuu's Ghostblade will also be giving you extra gold for every kill you get, which could be a little bit cool of a thing. Your active is on a little bit less of a cooldown for melees. You're on 6 seconds for range. You're on 4. Could be a little bit something where we see jungler bruisers like a Xin Zhao or something. Maybe even Lee Sin could potentially get. Lee Sin could want that Avarice Blade in the jungle, or maybe Lee Sin doesn't want it. Maybe Xin Zhao kind of wants that or something, but we'll have to see. Once again, this is all speculation. Personally, I'm not too impressed with the new Avarice Blade and the Youmuu's Ghostblade, but it could be potentially really good if you're going to be able to sit back and farm up a little bit more, which, looking at the rest of these changes, don't really know if you're going to be able to do. Warmog's Armor, this has suffered a lot of changes, and I say suffered in an interesting way, because Force of Nature is gone now. You have the passive HP regeneration, 1.5% of your maximum health regenerate every 5 seconds. You have your stacking passive removed, which means you can't stack the regeneration, you can't stack Warmog's armors anymore. So it's a little bit of a bummer, but you get a flat percentage of your HP regeneration now, which means in the later stages of the game, even though you're not adding as much HP anymore because the Giant Smoke got nerfed, ladies and gentlemen, but as you get things like a Randuin's Omen, Warmogs, Frozen Mallet, all these items that you would probably get in conjunction with one another, Trinity Force perhaps even, you will be able to increase your own health regeneration just by building health items. Deathfire's Grasp is a really cool remake now. Now builds out a needlessly large rod and an amplifying tome, a combination that we really don't see an item being built out of, but we usually have in our inventories as an AP carry at one point in time in the game. gives you a large percent of cooldown reduction in addition to a large chunk of ability power. Your active is still nerfed. It deals 15% of your maximum health damage, but you now amplify your damage being done to the target by 20% for 4 seconds. Very bursty combo champions like Vigar and LeBlanc are absolutely excited to see this item remade like this. Other champions that perhaps got it, like Cassiopeia even, you spam your spells, get a couple ticks of damage over time on them with that increased magic damage being done. That's really cool. This is like an Orchid Malevolence almost, but it doesn't have the silence effect, just the damage amplification as well as a single target nuke. So those casters that were lamented the loss of Deathfire Grass, Katarina, even Diana, gonna see this built a lot more often. It's a little bit more costly, so you're gonna see this built before the death cap once again, and you're gonna see the death cap get delayed on these characters, but they're gonna have massive burst damage in fights, and then towards the later team fights of the game, by getting that death cap, getting that Zanya's Hourglass, then they'll have the more sustained damage throughout multiple targets of the game. Warden's Mail. Now it's Cloth Armor and Cloth Armor. Passive no longer random, but the effects have been severely reduced because now you have less of a cost for it. It's no longer going to grant health regeneration, but Warden's Mail will only reduce attack speed, not movement speed. So it's no longer the defensive phage. So my quote-unquote AD carry Shishwani is very upset about this. But now your Warden's Mail is going to be building into Frozen Heart. I'm assuming rather than the double cloth armor, you're going to have the Frozen Heart recipe be Glacial Shroud, Warden's Mail, which is awesome because of the 2 items I got on Shishwani regardless. But now, you're going to have this build into a Randuin's Omen. Randuin's Omen effect, of course, is still going to stay, but unfortunately now, you're going to only reduce attack speed. It's going to be every single hit, though. It's no longer going to be a random % chance, but you don't debuff their movement speed. It's a significant nerf to the amount of attack speed you lose. However, if you recall correctly, Cloth Armor, that's 600 gold right there. Is the recipe then going to be 750 to make it 1350 still? I don't know about that. Maybe the cost is going to be nerfed a little bit. Maybe 1300, maybe 1200. Any kind of lowering of the Warden's Mail cost is going to be more effective for those, once again, top lane bruisers or jungle bruisers that like going for a Randuin's Omen. Udyr could see a little bit more surge in popularity because you may be potentially going to get that Glacial Shroud anyway. That could be a lot more effective and offer a lot more utility to your team. Cho'Gath now could potentially go for a Randuin's Omen as well as the Frozen Heart, or, one goes for one. Now you have a Glacial Shroud on your team. You're like, oh shoot, I already bought the Glacial Shroud. Like, damn it, we can't have 2 Frozen Hearts. It's going to be stupid. One turns into a Randuin's Omen, one turns into a Frozen Heart. Boom, instant utility for the rest of your team. That's going to be really cool. But going back to the cost nerf, if the cost of it is actually nerfed, it's going to be a lot more beneficial for those champions that want to get a Randuin's Omen or a Frozen Heart to wind up getting that. So it's going to be a really, really cool way to go. Decreasing the attack speed for a cheaper cost. As you talked about before, attack speed is getting an item gold increase. So that means that anything that debuffs the attack speed is going to be going up in relative value. So that could be potentially a really, really good item that you guys want to check out. So Warden's Mail, I like it already. Talk about Randuin's Omen. Passive no longer random, effects are reduced, talked about that. This, however, will reduce attack speed and movement speed. So Randuin's Omen actually will be increasing the movement speed, not only decreasing the movement speed, not only the attack speed, and it is going to be every single hit. So every single time someone hits you as a tanky initiator and they try to kite you and get away, you will now slow their movement speed every single time, well, when they hit you, as opposed to a random % chance to do it. So that makes kiting potential on these tanky DPS characters a little bit less. However, these effects have been reduced. We talked about that already, so it could potentially not be as bad. But you suffer a little bit of a setback because of that, because now your active has been reduced from 2 seconds to 1 second. So it's a little bit of trade-off you have to get for more consistency for when they attack you. You get less of a duration when you actually engage on them. Now these next cool items are really, really cool. Tear of the Goddess, slightly cheaper. Triggers when you spend mana as well as spell cast. Archangel Staff will automatically upgrade to Saris Embrace when the Tears of the Goddess passive is fully charged, which will then give you a shield like Blitzcrank for 25% of your current mana for 2.5 seconds. This is awesome. Hopefully we see this being built on Karthus and similar characters, Rise even, a lot more often, because this is going to be ridiculous. Rise especially, I'm going to give a shield on top of building a tanky kind of AP character. Awesome. Manamune, same exact thing, turns into Muramana. I keep wanting to say Muramune, Manamune, Masamune, Muramune, kind of stuff like that. But Muramana, when the Tear of the Goddess is in charge, and you can toggle to deal a percentage of your current mana and magic damage on all basic attacks and spells. Holy crap. Ezreal, Corki, you're going to love this item. Trust me. You do auto attacks, you deal spells, you deal percentage of your mana on those attacks. Like, holy crap. Like, any character you thought getting a Mana Mune was going to be good on, it is actually really, really good now. You don't have to pay for this upgrade. As soon as you charge it, it transforms automatically. So these spell-based AD champions are going to be seeing a lot more awesome stuff. Anybody that you thought could benefit from, even Blitzcrank potentially, could have a lot more. Can you think about it for a second? If Blitzcrank were to get an Archangel staff, upgrade to a Saracen Brace, have double shield, broken. Regardless of the fact, though, any of these champions that benefit from mana are going to have a lot more cool things coming their way, and it's going to be a little bit of a different tech tree you want to try to build them down. As I mentioned before, this Muramana item, I can't even say it anymore. The Muramana item could be a little bit more beneficial for 80 carries that are a bit more spell-based. Sivir even could be doing something like this, but we're going to have to see, because I think this might be a little bit more of a bruiser like item that you might be able to get, towards the middle stages of the game. You go for the Mana Mune and then go through the jungle or go from your top lane, try to snowball into late game team fights by toggling it and dealing damage off of all your spells when you go to initiate and absorb some damage. We'll have to see about that, though. I'm saying that a lot because this is, once again, all theory crafting and speculation to try to get your guys' minds kind of focused with all the information Riot's chucking at us and start to kind of, theorize for yourselves, like, oh man, what am I going to build when Season 3 starts? Like, I don't even know. You build some Tiamats, melee only. Now it's a unique passive, so it doesn't actually stack anymore, but larger splash radius with damage fall off towards the edge. But has an active now. You can actively cleave in a large area around your target, so rest in peace. You're not going to be able to Wings of Death one-shot the entire team anymore. However, you're going to be able to upgrade that into some new items as well. Consumables, Oracle's Elixir is now been capped, so you're not going to be able to keep that for the entire game. Interesting. Elixir of Strength has been nerfed a little bit. Duration reduced to 3 minutes, but it's slightly stronger at early levels. Same thing for Elixir of Brilliance. So Elixir's been changed a little bit. All right. Let's talk about these new items really quick. Cage's or Kage's Last Breath. Supportive peel/initiation item. It's going to be built out of a Kage's lucky pick. Who knew? And Mana Manipulator. Yeah, we're already seeing more Mana Manipulator. So you keep the GP10 passive. You get an active that target ally gets a 30% slow aura. This is interesting. It's kind of like a Radavitos and kind of like Degeneration aura from Dota all put together. This is basically going to be like you're going to give an ally an area around them that slows people down. So they lose 30% of their move speed while chasing. It's like they said, it's a peel item. It's going to be something that helps these people that are now getting Randuin's Omen, that if your carry attacks them and they can't really run away as easily anymore, it's going to help them run away a little bit easier. So this is something really, really cool. Not to mention the fact that you still get the Kage's lucky pick, and you're probably going to get the Mana Manipulator benefit as well. So you're also going to be giving yourself like a little bit extra mana regeneration and giving that to your ally in lane and your team in team fights. That's pretty cool. Liandry's Lament. Controlled Burn Mage item. Haunting Guys and Amplifying Tomes. This is something that Haunting Guys upgrades into that mid-game kind of quote-unquote dead-end item. Now it's something to upgrade into, much like they gave Chalice of Harmony. Its passive will deal spell damage burning enemies for % of their current life over 3 seconds. This effect deals double damage to the target's movement is impaired. So this is pretty cool on Orianna. This is pretty cool on Ryze. This is pretty cool on champions that can slow or debuff the enemy champion, because it will be dealing double the passive's damage. This is actually really cool to see on Bran. Bran stuns them, or anything like that. His passive burns, his Ignite can burn on them, and then this is going to burn on them. It's like the Blackfire Torch for Summoner's Rifts. This is a pretty cool item. It's also going to be a bit more of a niche kind of choice, because you're going to be, I'm assuming, get ability power, magic penetration, and health off of this. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see. I kind of want to see Gragas getting something like this, because he's going to be able to benefit from the health as well, being a little bit tankier naturally. This guy I can also assume is going to be one of those alternatives to going for Errata Vages on champions that don't want to be nearly as defensive. Like, Karthus wants to be defensive to get the extra HP and everything, but like I mentioned before, champions like Cassiopeia and stuff don't want that Rod of Ages for strict defense. They want more offensive statistics, so this is probably something that those champions are going to want to pursue after. Static Shiv. High speed burst damage. You build a Zeal, you build an Avarice Blade, and it sucks.
Moving or attacking will build static charges. At 100 charges, your next attack is going to unleash all charges to deal 100 magic damage up to 4 targets. This effect benefits from critical strikes. Sounds pretty cool, right? Sounds really awesome. Well, hold on a second. Zeal gives you movement speed and attack speed. Average Blade gives you extra gold when you kill stuff. And then if you move around and attack, you create like static charges and stuff. Like, okay. This is what I'm assuming. I'm assuming, like, in the middle of a fight, like this huge team fight, there's a Cho'Gath, there's an Alistar, there's all these big, beefy champions, and then you have, like, Teemo come around with his little static shiv, and he's, like, shuffling his feet like a mouse, and he comes up and he's like, Psst, and tries to zap somebody. It's not going to hurt. They're going to sit there and they're going to laugh, they're going to flick the Teemo away and be like, go join Poppy in the pile of useless champions now. This item is not Ionic Spark. This item will not offer the same utility as Ionic Spark. It's going to deal 100 magic damage up to 4 targets. So it's a bit of a forked lightning effect. 100 magic damage is nothing, though. So, and you're going to have to get 100 charges. How are the charges stacked? We don't know. Is it for every attack you get 1? Is it a percentage of your damage? Is it your full damage? If your full damage, this item is broken. If it's a percentage of your damage, it's a little bit more balanced. How's it going to work off your movement? We don't really know. It benefits from critical strikes. That's pretty cool because you can critical strike the magic damage, and that's a lot more effective. So you're going to be able to critical strike the magic damage and shoot it out, but who's going to want to build something like that? Maybe an Ashe? Like, I really don't know anybody else who's going to be maybe a Gangplank. No one's really going to be relying on critical strike as maybe Garen. But, like, other than that, these champions aren't as viable as they used to be. And this item doesn't really breathe any new life into them. It kind of gives them a little bit more of a trick. And considering the fact that a lot of these other items are, you know, armor and magic resistance is going to be a lot harder to come by. But a lot of these other items are going to be dealing extra magic damage or offer a magic penetration or something. You're going to be seeing a lot more people building Aegis of the Legion to give your team the early magic resistance. So I really don't know if this is going to be as beneficial. I could just be bitter at the fact that I removed my Ionic Spark when people like Wicked were really starting to unlock the full potential of it, and people are starting to call me less of a troll because I said the item was good. So we're going to have to see, but first glimpse, not impressed with Static Shiv whatsoever. I'm actually very, very disappointed in this item. Sorry, Static. Frozen Fist looks pretty cool, though. Resistance-oriented version of Sheen. You get a Sheen and a Glacial Shroud, and it has a passive where after you use an ability, your next attack is going to deal physical damage equal to 125% of your base damage, to cleave. It's like surrounding enemies. This leaves an icy field with slow enemies' movement speed by X percentage for Y seconds. That's cool. So they haven't worked out the numbers with it yet, but it's kind of like a utility defensive version of Sheen. That's pretty cool. We could see this being built on champions like that might want to be going for a Trinity Force but are more defensive oriented. You know, people that spam spells but still want to build tanky. That would be a pretty cool thing. It's also an alternative to get you to deal a little bit of extra oomph to your magic damage or to your auto attack damage, but you could build straight tanky, so it's really good for specific matchups where if you're going against a really heavy bruiser or an assassin type champion and you want to offer a little more resistance and a little more utility to your team, you could build this rather than going for Trinity Force. It's also a lot cheaper, so that's pretty cool. Blood Hydra. High-end attack damage / area of effect. Tiamat and Vamp Scepter. This is what the Tiamat upgrades into. Tiamat's active and passive now benefit from percentages of your lifesteal. That's pretty cool. You get extra lifesteal benefit on your cleave damage. So instead of just getting the first attack damage and all the rest of it doesn't really matter, it's going to apply that cleave effect. So everything you hit, you're going to leech percentage of your life off of. That's pretty cool. So it offers a little bit more utility for your Tiamat. Once again, very AD Bruiser heavy item. A lot of these items I'm saying, think about AD Bruiser, think about AD Bruiser, think about AP carry, think about AP carry, and trying to theory craft about AD carries because we don't really know what the changes to Infinity Edge and Bloodthirster are going to be as of just yet. Mercurial Scimitar, high-end magic resistance attack damage items. This could potentially be the redemption for Lichbane. Quicksilver Sash and PS Sword. Well, that's a pretty cool combination. Active. Cleanses all debuffs from your character. If your character is melee, you gain 100% move speed for 1 second. Holy crap. Alright, first off, this looks like a great range carry item. And then you read the movement speed bonus. And you're just like, what the fuck? This is one of those Jin Zhao, very Riven-y kind of like, this is what you get in that late stage of the game when you're going to be getting in the team fights, you need to survive, you're starting to suffer a lot of the focus, you're not as bruisery or as tanky as you really, really want to be.
but you need a way to get out of like something like Malzahar Ultimate or all the CC that people are throwing at you. You build this item, get that extra 100 move speed bonus. It lets you turn around the fight with a chase, let you disengage, let you get away cleanly, regardless of the fact it's still adding damage onto you. So it's still very beneficial for your I want to kill people thing. So it's a really, really cool utility that they've added to the Quicksilver Sash. It also just screams late game item to me because you need to build a BF sword with it. And you're not getting the Quicksilver Sash extremely early unless you're building all defense, in which case this is going to be a really cool hybrid-y kind of item, because then you could build and on the defensive character, give them a little bit of extra burst damage with the BF sword, and it'd be pretty cool. Not burst damage, a little bit more attack damage with the BF sword. Why did I say burst damage? It's really weird. But it'll give a little bit different mechanic to that character. Wrecker, not Homewrecker, the Wrecker. High-end siege item. Catalyst and Chain Vest. Active will disable nearby enemy towers for 2.5 seconds, preventing them from attacking. That's pretty cool. This is a kind of push-oriented item. And I was actually talking to Cumley. If you guys don't know Cumley, here's a New Earth caster, Dota caster, League of Legends caster. Really cool guy, really funny guy. But regardless of the fact, we're talking about how League of Legends is a game that you really can't decide at champion select with certain strategies, unlike Dota 2, unlike Heroes of New Earth, because of just the varying factors of the gameplay and everything. You know, one strategy may be superior to another and may have its benefits over that one, but because of the actual gameplay mechanics, the strategy that's weaker still has a very good shot at upsetting the strategy if they're able to find a chink in the armor, or if they're able to basically, you know, gain some sort of advantage against it, whereas the other strategies won't win outright. So therefore, push compositions really don't get as much love in League of Legends. Have been kind of reworked into these lane swap Azubu Blaze style pushes in order to get that push early. Now this Wrecker item comes into play, as well as the fact that we have those talents in the mastery trees that either debuff enemy tower armor or deal extra damage to the towers. We could potentially see Heimerdinger push compositions, Nidalee push compositions, something like that being brought a little bit more into the forefront with, say, a jungler who really just wants to build a little bit of extra armor and HP, like a Maokai or a Malphite or something, and being put into this push composition where they still have that unstoppable force or the twisted roots to engage an enemy and not really worry about engaging under a tower even by disabling their attacks. So this is pretty cool. It's a really, really cool item. Hopefully we see it used a lot more. I think it might be a little bit more gimmicky. I think we're not going to see a lot of teams use this until the Koreans or CLG Prime pulls this one out, because they're the kind of ones that would really, really try to use something like this. Rates Collar. Supportive Scouting item. Cool. Another Cage's Lucky Pick item. No Magic Mantle. Summons 2 raids for 6 seconds that seek out the nearest enemy champion. So they reach a champion, they slow him, and reveal him for 2.5 seconds. Well, that's pretty cool. Because my first thought of this is not, let's find champions. My thought of this is, holy crap, my support character now has a secondary slow. So that's really, really awesome. Plus it's giving you magic resistance, and I'm assuming ability power. So this could potentially be something you get on AP mid, even just a little bit of utility in the middle stages of the game. If you're going to be building that instead of a Chalice of Harmony, because you don't necessarily need the extra mana, that'd be pretty cool. Or support characters like Lulu or something, that are even Sona. This, of course, will be able to, if you're pushing out, you can activate it. The rates will find the enemy champions and be like, haha, hey, they're trying to gank you. If not, like I said, it's a bonus slow for your support character. That's really cool. Hurricane, or Runon's Hurricane, or whatever the heck it's going to be called. Reeker Bow and Dagger. Okay, lots of attack speed. Your shots fire 2 secondary ghostly bolts to deal X plus 50% of your attack damage to nearby targets. These cannot critically strike but apply on-hit effects. This is the item I was talking about before, Twisted Fate and Orianna. There's been discussion on the Reddit threads already about this item because it got spoiled a little bit earlier, but didn't have these percentages and everything. It's a straight attack speed item, so that's all it's going to be. But you get the secondary bolt to deal X plus 50% of your attack damage, so it's pretty cool to think about getting it on an 80 carry. However, with the new Lich Bane, with the percentage of ability power plus your auto attack damage, plus your auto attack damage, plus half your auto attack damage, plus the X value of this one, plus all the ability power you're going to be building on your champion, well, and plus like an Orianna who's going to have this stacking magic damage being thrown on her passive, it could potentially be a very powerful thing. Thing is, too, this is going to proc every single time. So it's basically a forked lightning effect or split shot, one of Medusa's old spells from Defense of the Ancients. Oh man, I just realized you don't have Medusa in Dota 2 now. I'm really sad about that. But regardless, Medusa actually didn't level up split shot until later stages of the game. It was a bit more of a pushing utility.
as opposed to a team fight mechanic. However, hers costed mana, so that's probably why people didn't really use it in the earlier stages of the game. This is a straight attack speed item, and we talked about attack speed being more expensive in this game. Could potentially see this on, someone like Graze, who's going to be able to shoot 3 targets and buckshot at the same time. That'd be pretty cool. Other hard AD carries like that, as opposed to the spellcaster-based ones. Sivir could push very, very effectively with this, in addition to her bouncing blade. So that would be really cool to see. But we're going to have to see if Renan's Hurricane actually makes it into the competitive play. I think it's a little bit gimmicky right now, but because it adds so much attack speed and has the passive benefit, this is like my new Ionic Spark. I think it's actually going to make an impact as soon as people figure out how to use it. Bruisers could even use this one. It could be potentially that replacement that Wicked is looking for on Aurelia. You're going to have to see, though, because it still deals regular damage and not magic damage.
Zephyr. High-end speed item. Stinger and Longsword.
Grants attack speed, cooldown reduction, movement speed, attack speed, and tenacity.
This is pretty cool. So this is kind of like Phantom Dancer round 2, but cooldown reduction and tenacity.
So this could be something you see on more and more range carries. It could be something like another Xin Zhao item. But Xin Zhao is just my go-to like fragile AD jungle top lane bruiser. So that's why I'm kind of comparing a lot of things to him. So this is actually a pretty cool item. It still adds you attack speed, cooldown reduction, movement speed, tenacity, and I'm assuming it says attack damage, not attack speed twice because you have the longsword in there. So it's a bit of like a mid-game item, kind of opposed to going for the Zeal and then Phantom Dancer. This could be your kind of midway point. So that's pretty cool. I actually want to see that. Banner of Command, Siege Mage item. Ooh, that just sounds like Warhammer all over. Blasting Wand, Emblem of Valor. Interesting. Grants health regeneration nearby allies. Grants % damage to nearby allies. And promotes. This looks like a support item all over it. Once again, another item that Sona and Lulu can build into. You get the health regeneration aura. You grant % damage to nearby minions. So minions, not just allies, just minions. So a bit of a pushing kind of thing. And it's a promote. So maybe Nunu. Can you even get this support Nunu? Maybe Blitzcrank. I think it's more of a support item than a siege mage item. Although you do have the blasting one that it builds from, so this is probably going to be something towards the later stages of the game. If you're going for a split push strategy, just let your support character kind of help you split push. Pick this, the support character goes with the promote, your range carry goes with them. Play something like the Renan's Hurricane, and you wind up split pushing the lane like that. You have a Shen who does something very similar with another one of those on-hit effect items, and you split push the lane as well. This could be, Nia's split push strategy item for support character. Let's see if Lokodoka really likes it, and that'd pretty much be it. Oh, the Resurgence of Sword of the Divine. Rapid burst attack damage item. Recur Bow and Dagger has no statistics to itself, or at least so it seems. You gain 100% attack speed and 100% critical strike for 4 seconds, or for 3 critical strikes. That's pretty cool. 25-second cooldowns. Item gives no attack speed while on cooldown. Its passive kills and assists half this item's cooldown. That's pretty cool. So if you activate this and kill somebody, it goes to 12.5 second and then breaks down from there, like 6.25, blah, 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 second cooldown. That's pretty cool. If it only adds this stuff when it's all like on cooldown and you don't actually get any of the benefits on here, because it's saying you get no attack speed while on cooldown, that's an interesting kind of niche item. I don't really know who it's going to be beneficial on, but it allows you to get resets. It allows you to burst people down. 100% critical strike chance. It makes me think it could be a late game AD carry item. Be something that Corki or Ezreal or even a Gangplank could want to get after acquiring your Infinity Edge. You do the extra critical strike damage, or you get a little bit more, straight damage with a Bloodthirster, and then build this, like Bloodthirster Trinity Edge, Trinity Force, Trinity Edge, and then get this item and go for 100% critical strike with all those Sheen procs and everything. Could be very, very deadly. We'll have to see if people use it that way or not, though. Mikal's Crucible. High-tier supportive item. Chalice and Sapphire Crystals. So now we have something that the Chalice of Harmony can build out of on those champions or those players like Elements and Muffin Cutie. You get those Chalice of Harmonies on Zyra and Sona.
It could be something that we actually build instead of going for just a Locket of the Iron Solari. Pass is going to increase mana regeneration based on missing mana. Okay, shout out to Harmony. And active removes stuns, root, silences, slows, fears, taunts from the ally, and then heals them for X plus Y percentage of their missing health. Holy crap! Okay, so you have an allied nuke heal based off their missing health, plus an active, or plus a chunk of their HP already, and it removes stuns, root, silences, slows, fears, and taunts. So you Quicksilver Sash somebody, or Purge, something that Defense in the Ancient Heroes of Newerth are very familiar with, purge them of their debuffs, heal them, and that's it. That's, once again, like, I kind of want to think this is like the item that after you get a Shirelia's or something, after you get the Aegis of the Legion, after you get whatever other items you're going to get, you have that Chalice of Harmony sitting in your inventory, you upgrade it to a Mikhail's Crucible, and all of a sudden your AD carry becomes super versatile in team fights, especially if they have the thing that gives them, or your melee carry. If you have someone like that from the top lane, and you have that thing that gives them 100% move speed, you debuff them, heal them, let them charge back into the fight. Holy crap, is that effective. So that item just speaks leaps and bounds late game super support item. Consumables, these are pretty cool. Sightstone, supportive ward item. You get a little bit extra health. Your passive is you recharge wards, basically, which is really cool. So now you don't have to really spam as many wards anymore because you can invest in an item that does it for you. Ruby Sightstone. It's a Sightstone plus Ruby Crystal. Sightstone apparently is, something new that we talked about already. I'm assuming I completely forget. But it starts at 5 charges. Charge refill, you go back to Fountain. You consume to place a Sight Ward that lasts 3 minutes. You can have 3 wards in this item at one time. That's pretty cool. So you have 3 wards in the Sightstone, the Ruby Sightstone. Sorry, Sightstone was the we just talked about. Holy crap, am I really, really sleepy. What time is it? 2 in the morning? Okay, that's why. But you get straight health. You can put 2 wards, you upgrade it. You get 5 charge, you can place 3 wards instead. So that's pretty cool. Leaden Crystal Flask, bottle, anybody? Only it's bad. Start with 3 charges, refills when you go back to the fountain. Consume a charge to regenerate 100 health and 40 mana over 10 seconds. Unlike the bottle in Dota or Heroes of Newerth, though, this one does not stop when you get auto-attacked, so that is why it is so low, because otherwise it would be broken. So we talked about all the items. We saw a lot of stuff to talk about, and this has been a long, long show already. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen, but Summoner Spells really quick. Barrier is not available. I hate it. Cooldown has been increased. Duration and damage were reduced. Still hate it. Don't want to talk about it. Think it's going to be absolutely insane. Modified. Exhaust values have been modified to reduce its impact on melee champions, but increase visibility. Physical damage reduction has been reduced, but now all it reduces attack speed, so that's pretty cool because attack speed is going to be a lot more important, a lot more expensive. Clairvoyance. So if you actually improve Clairvoyance in the Mastery Tree, you reveal champions hit by Clairvoyance for the duration of Clairvoyance, even if they walk out of the circle, so it's pretty cool. It kind of reveals them. Radius, duration, and cooldown has been modified. Clarity, so you got mana based on mana pool rather than a flat value. Heal, same kind of thing. Have been reworked a bit. Allies are now healed for the same amount as the caster, and it's back to the original values for healing. That's pretty cool. Flash, Ignite, and Revive have also had some minor changes. They're not telling us what. Probably increased cooldown, less damage growth, and hopefully this is more viable. Your move, Surge, and Promote. Sorry, CLG. Excuse me. Mastery's been rebalanced. We'll talk about this probably somewhere else, but the Utility Mastery Tree is a little bit better. Each Mastery Tree is more accessible, so you might potentially see more than just the standard 9, 0, 21 builds. You've seen a lot of like 18 stuff builds too, like Smithy on Fear likes to do. See if that becomes a little more viable. Last but not least, going to speed through this a little bit because, like I said, the show is already getting extremely, extremely long. I apologize once again, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for sticking through it, by the way. Jungle. In general, leashing has been changed. Jungle monsters now attack the closest hostile target rather than choosing their original target. Whenever jungle monster switches, it counts as a leash. Maximum number of leashes after which a jungle monster will reset has been increased. That's pretty cool. So the resets are a little bit less likely. Jungle monsters now deal bonus damage to summon minions. So you're going to have a little bit more of a hard time than like people who are going to be summoning things. Can't really think of anybody who does that though. Zyra. Malzahar. Can't really think of anybody that target like Shaco. Don't really know, Shaco clones and stuff. Don't really know that's going to be as nearly effective. Or it could actually, hint towards some
newer champions. There's no Lycan in this game, so he doesn't use like minions to tank damage or anything. Initial difficulty of all jungle camps have been increased. Overall camp health has also been increased. Camp difficulty and rewards have been redistributed to more large monsters in each camp. Largest monsters in each camp are generally more resilient, but also hold the most rewards, so gold, the health benefit, and everything like that. Scaling difficulty and rewards of the primary jungle camps have been significantly increased. Health and attack damage growth per minute significantly increased. Gold and experience growth per minute also significantly increased. So your junglers are going to have a slower time, but still gain more experience in gold. So they're going to be relatively on the same path, but take a little bit more time to go through the jungle. So that seems pretty cool. Hopefully it doesn't shut down these utility junglers that hard, because they really relied on getting that early level 3, going for ganks in top or mid lane like your Maokais and stuff like that. Malphites also had a really hard time in the jungle, especially if you don't get a really, really good leash. So we're going to have to see if that changes them at all. Cho'Gath's coming to a little bit more of his own recently. We haven't played in a lot more tournament matches, so hopefully we still see these guys. But it's also going to be benefiting the junglers that deal damage. So you can see they're going to be benefited a little bit more because they can clear the camps faster, get that extra experience in gold quicker than their utility allies, and then be able to gank or counter jungle a little bit more effectively because of that. Overall rewards have been redistributed between the 3 primary jungle camps, Wolves, Wraiths, and Golems, to better match the difficulty and convenience. Wraiths are the fastest respawning, most convenient camps, so they have the lowest rewards. That makes sense. Golems and Wolves are much more difficult and are worth more now. You know, Wolves obviously are significantly harder than Golems. They do have the critical strike passive, but now Wolves may be a little bit more tempting to take rather than Wraiths. And, you know, Wraiths are not going to be valued as highly, and those mid laners could potentially be taking them away from your junglers quite more often. We'll have to see. New jungle items have been added to the store. Old jungle items have been adjusted. Hunter's Machete, that's pretty cool. It builds into Madred's Razors and Spirit Stone. We don't know what it does. Maybe it deals extra damage to minions, which is what I'm assuming it could be, like a hatchet in Dota 2 or Heroes of New Earth. Spirit Stone, jungle item geared towards casters and tanks that has 3 upgrade paths. Don't really know what to do. Madred's Razor and Wriggle's Lantern have been modified to build out a Hunter's Machete. The banking system that caused jungle monsters that have stayed alive for a long duration has slightly increased rewards has been removed. Okay, so you're not going to be able to, it's not creep stacking or anything, but that means like you're not going to have more rewards for keeping like a blue buff alive longer or something like that. Wolves' critical strike damage reduced to better normalize their damage output. Movement speed slightly reduced. Wraiths reduce their vulnerability from enemies that engage from the outside of the camp. Camps have been repositioned. Big Wraith attack range has been modified. Okay, so you're not going to be able to mid lane, might not be able to take those Wraiths as easily as we thought. Golems, movement speed and attack range have been increased to reduce vulnerability from kiting, so the AD carry and support. Sorry, you're not going to be taking those Golems soon. You may have more benefit from taking the Wolves after all, though. Magic resistance reduced to negative values, so they can take a little bit extra damage from spells. This makes utility junglers and spell-based junglers a little bit more happy. So, now that we talked about absolutely everything, generally, what I'm assuming from all these item changes is we're getting a lot more actives on items, a lot more mechanics in League of Legends that haven't been present in the game before, more present so in Defense of the Ancients, Heroes of New Earth, and similar games to those. Other than that, I mean, like, the game pace, I don't think it's going to change all too much. Junglers and ganks and stuff are going to be a little bit slower, I think. But, I mean, the new items, I think, could potentially prove me wrong. We have a lot of endgame item paths for AD carries, bruisers, support characters, and mages all alike. Junglers, I think, are being hit the most from this. You know, they're changing jungle items a little bit, but they haven't given us any information on this already. So, we'll have to see if that actually helps them out any bit more, or if the jungle is actually going to be a little bit more of a volatile place come Season 3. But regardless, I think the metagame is going to shift to a little bit more. It's going to be really aggressive invades and early level 1 fights and engages, or it's going to be a little bit more passive. We're going to see stuff happening once again towards like the level 4 to 6 mark again, which of course could benefit people like Skarner, like Warwick, like junglers that maybe fallen off a little bit. Udyr, who could passively jungle and sit back and farm, might be a little bit more better for him. More better. Getting sleepy, getting late, guys. But regardless of the fact, I mean, if you want to see what some of these changes could be, to be completely honest, go watch a Dota 2 tournament. Go see what some of these roaming junglers do, what these weird aggressive support choices do, and what they build into in items, and what they do at the late game on their carries, because they can go invisible, they can disarm players. They can do all these kooky kind of things, and this is kind of where I think League of Legends is shifting a little bit more towards. It's going to increase the skill cap for players, which which I think is going to bring us a lot more entertaining matches so we can watch at a high level. So regardless of that, guys, hopefully you're going to enjoy the Season 3 changes. I was a little bit skeptical about everything they were doing. I mean, Season 1 to Season 2, they wanted to make it more aggressive and everything, and now finally people, Season 2 fighters are picking up on the aggression. They're going to change it on us all of a sudden and have to relearn everything. I thought it was going to be a bit of a problem. It looks to be a little bit more of a subtle kind of change, and I think the aggression is still going to be there, but we're also still going to have a little bit more passive elements to the farm, and we've already talked about some of those other 80 carries are going to be a little more viable. Some of those more sustainable and slower junglers are as well, are going to be a little bit more valuable. Some of those mids, even, that we haven't seen for a while, could be more viable. Regardless of how viable everybody is going to be, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you've enjoyed my quick little rundown of the preliminary stages of Season 3 changes. Once again, my name is Optimus Tom. Thank you for tuning in, guys. You can get on my own YouTube channel, youtube.com/OptimusTomTV, or find me on the Twitters at Optimus Tom. You guys also want to remember to check out the rest of the content on ggchronicle.com or check out all our videos at youtube.com/ggchronicle. Follow us on Twitter or Facebook as well at ggchronicle or facebook.com/ggchronicle. So guys, hopefully you've enjoyed this little special edition of my In the Zone show, my little Learn to League of Legends show, where today we've gone over everything you guys are going to need to know about the changes for Season 3. So hopefully, guys, I'll see you out there in the preseason, grinding out those last remaining games for Ionic Spark. Other than that, I'll see you guys on the field of justice in the new season.